Welcome to The Right Advice. I'm Randy.
And I'm Amber. Today we are reviewing episode 5 of Willow. Randy, first reaction?
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm in the same. It was, in my opinion, horrifically awful. It was so bad, I feel like teenagers wrote this show. Actually, I felt that all along, but this kind of confirms it. It must have been.
I'm thinking grade schoolers wrote this episode. I mean, to be honest about it, I was just so shocked at the writing level for this episode.
In just about every respect, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so tell us, is there something about it that you liked?
I loved, are we talking about favorite scenes or are we talking about what I liked about it?
A thing about it that you liked.
Okay, that is going to be difficult. That is,
Yeah.
I gotta say, that is going to be difficult. I will go with, boy, I'm struggling to come up with a thing about the whole episode that I liked. Let's do, I'm going to combine it with my scene. So what
Okay.
I did like is we do get a nod back to the original movie when the brownies show up, or at least one of them,
Rule. Yeah.
Sorry, Rule.
That's all good.
He shows up, and that exchange between him and Willow does have a feel, at least the banter feels like the original, and that is something that I think they did well because there's a lot of fond memories in the original movie with that interaction, and they brought that back.
Yeah, and you know what, if you think about it, all the humor up until now has been banter. So I don't think it was a stretch for the writers to be like, oh, we can do one of the brownies, because that's what they were. They were constantly saying funny things. There was situational humor mostly, but they also had banter. And that, I think, it worked to their advantage. I wouldn't say that the writers did anything spectacular, but you know, thankfully for them, there was something from the older movies that worked for them in their favor. I would have to say that same thing for me. There was really nothing about this episode that I liked. Honestly, I thought that the fruit that made you tell the truth plums.
The truth plums.
I thought that could have been a little more interesting, but they were inconsistent. And you pointed this out during the show, that they're supposed to be telling the truth the whole time, right? But Kit lies. One of the first things that she does is lie to Alora Dannon when, I forget what it was, she said something like,
You want some advice?
Yeah, you want some advice? No. Well, yeah. If these are truth plums that make you tell the truth, she shouldn't have been able to say no. So what are these fruits? They're nothing. Anyway. You want to move on to things that we did not like?
Yeah, because we're kind of touching on it right now. It's very inconsistent all across the board. So, I mean, there's an example, right? Truth plums, so you have to tell the truth. And yet, the princess can lie if the writers think that what she's writing is kind of funny and, pithy and everything. They can do that. All over the place we see inconsistencies. And I have a feeling you may be talking about this, but so we have the Bone Reavers, right? The bad guys. No, they're not the bad guys. And that whole thing and explaining it, it's just not consistent with the original. And I think that at this point you have to officially declare the original movie just dead to this franchise.
Yeah.
This is its own thing. It's really not Willow. It's something else with the name of Willow and the actor who played Willow in it, but it is no longer Willow.
Completely unrelated. And, you could try to judge this for its own sake, say, okay, what if this was just a standalone series? And it's still inconsistent because the Bone Reavers at the very beginning of this series, episode 1, killed one of their guards, who we were meant to like, the one who made that joke about, I don't have any kids that I'm aware of. I thought he was funny. He got killed immediately in the first episode by the Bone Reavers. So wouldn't they all be going, whoa, these are the guys who just killed who killed our buddy? And wouldn't they also be going, they just threatened to kill us and boil our skulls? I mean, so,
at the very beginning of the episode, we're going to boil your skulls.
Yeah. And then Willow's like, isn't it hilarious that, we used to be scared of these guys? Like, hilarious.
So funny.
Oh my gosh. It's just ridiculous. The people who are writing this, I feel like this is a rough draft of a show. And that's what we're watching. We're watching somebody's rough draft, and they're not a very good writer to start with. So Yeah.
So let me kind of focus on the same thing, but in more of a like from a writer's point of view. So Willow, the movie, is a fantasy, high fantasy, which generally has a lot of action. Right? There's some seriousness in there because generally a high fantasy is good versus evil, and it looks like evil's winning, and the heroes have to stop evil. All right. So this episode is completely farcical. It is a farce. So it is written as a farce, as minor comedy, and things don't matter. I'm reminded of the movie Head by the Monkees, who wrote that when they were on drugs, and it was really horrible. And I mean, I just can't emphasize how horrible it was.
I've never even heard of it. It must have been really bad.
I mean, it's so bad that unless you're really old, you don't know about that movie at all. But there's been some newer stuff that's come out that just is strange, and you get done watching it, and you're like, what was that movie about? I don't even know what that's about. And I kind of feel that with this. Everything is, let's just change things around randomly, and everything's kind of light-hearted, and we have the whole kind of Woodstock scene and the Reaver camp, and
yeah, all I could think was, these guys were trying to kill you, we're going to kill you, we're ready to boil your skulls, and now we're all friends. And back to the inconsistency stuff, Jade suddenly being, I'm so happy that I'm a Bone Reaver, makes zero sense whatsoever. I mean, yes, she has discovered her past was a lie, but you don't immediately switch sides, and you have something to say about this.
All right, so I have written a memoir called The Milkman's Son, and 5 years ago I found out that my dad is not my biological father. So this is something where I have personal experience with, and I will tell you that when I found that out, my dad didn't stop being my dad. So all those feelings and all those relationships and all those world views that I had, that I learned growing up with my dad, they remained. They didn't change. I had to alter my perception of the new family from being strangers to being family. So that was a process. It didn't happen like that because they said, oh, this is your real father, right? It just didn't change. I mean, Luke Skywalker, right? I mean, he finds out.
Trauma.
He doesn't go like, oh, I'm going to join with you, Dad. I am so happy that I know who my dad is now, and let's go conquer the universe. Yeah, that's not what happened. Your attitudes and things do not change. And in this movie, they did. So that does not reflect reality.
And quite honestly, they should, I mean, not to say like, oh, there should be a message in here, but it's a stupid idea to think that your morality could change immediately like that, because it doesn't. I mean, for the last several episodes, we're on episode 5 now, the Bone Reavers have been the bad guys who want to kill you, who you cannot trust. And suddenly now Jade, who was supposed to be wanting to be a knight, a warrior for what she believed to be justice, is saying, oh, they're not really bad guys, they were just misunderstood. And matter of fact, it's the people who I love and was loyal to before, they're the bad guys because they were slave owners before. It just doesn't they didn't treat her like a slave, so it just does not make any sense whatsoever. There's no point in the story up until now that we have seen Jade being unhappy with her life in Tir Asleen. She's going to be the first lady knight.
Yeah, so let's just change everything completely around. Not only that, but in the original movie, there is no indication that anyone was owning slaves other than the Bone Reavers.
Yes, other than Bavmorda and her
Bavmorda and her Bone Reaver, allies, her troops. Those were the ones who were killing people wantonly, burning villages, enslaving people. But now, let's forget about the past. Let's just make up new stuff and have a huge party. Yeah, woohoo!
Makes no sense. I was sitting there going, this is the most uncomfortable party I've ever witnessed. I mean, at least for me it was. Anyway. Do you mind if I mention the thing about the camera hints?
No, go ahead.
So, okay, I've got a background in filmmaking as well as fencing, but the camera is not giving us any hints about things that it could be doing without any dialogue needing to be there. So one of the things would be, for instance, let's see, I had Kit suspecting that Jade was a Bone Reaver. We've not seen anything about Kit wondering about Jade's past at all until now, and that could be done with a simple glance over to her looking like, oh my gosh, like, is she, is Jade okay? Are the wheels turning in her head? Is she thinking anything like I've been thinking for the past 15 years, wondering if she's a bone reaver? We didn't see any of that. We didn't see it also with I think we saw it once in the last episode with Elora Danon kind of looking at Graydon differently, but very, very little. There's so many instances where I feel like the camera could have given us hints of things that were coming, things that were going to happen.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, so she could have been talking with her sister, the leader of the Bone Reavers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And over her shoulder, we could have seen the princess kind of in the background, arms folded, scowling, right? And we don't have to be told, and this series continually tells us what people are thinking. We don't have to be told. We can see it, right? And just that camera work while those two are having a conversation tells us all we need to know, right? And they don't do that kind of stuff.
So I have to think that maybe the people who made this show, and I don't know anything about them, I heard that they have some talent behind the special effects and the cinematography, but maybe the writers don't really have that much experience in filmmaking, because these are things that filmmakers should just know how to do this, and I'm not seeing any evidence of that whatsoever. It feels like this is an experiment gone horribly wrong, because I can't think of a single moment in this entire episode, with the exception of the reappearance of Rule, but there were still problems with that. Do we even want to touch on that?
Might as well, yeah.
What the heck? How are they dressed? The girl, his daughter, what's her name? Ganoush? She's wearing a rock concert t-shirt. I mean, unmistakably a rock concert t-shirt underneath her onesie with ears and paws. Like these were supposed to be like a primitive people. They were living
in nature
with the fairies. They wore the skins of mice. You pointed that out,
and leaves for hats. And,
yes.
Right. I mean, so all of that. Right. And then we come up and there's so many modern sensibilities now. And when I'm talking about a farce, that's what we're talking about. So dressing in modern clothing in what's supposed to be a high fantasy setting, that's a farce. And it can be used for humor, but it's a very different tone than what the movie gave us.
Yeah.
And you have to look at this show as really it's a farce. And maybe it'll be more enjoyable if you're like, oh, it's not really connected to Willow, the movie. It is a farce of its own, loosely based on the movie.
It's got the same title. That's how loosely it's based. Yeah, and one of the things that we were talking about was how they're trying to vilify the heroes of the movie, and they're trying to sympathize with the villains now. So, to me, this is a thematic separation from the original, which is that Bavmorda was evil and power hungry. General Kale was the very embodiment of power and evil. And now we're supposed to be like, oh, well, they weren't really evil. They were misunderstood. Yeah, that's what it was. And we're supposed to be looking at Tyr's Lean and Galadorn, who were the heroes, as now they were evil.
They're oppressors. They are evil oppressors.
And to me, that takes away from the heart of one of the main themes of Willow, which was it is good versus evil. And now, can we move on to where you think this is going? Because it sort of ties into what I'm thinking here. Or do you have something else?
I'm stumped. You know, and that's really tough to stump me. I've always got ideas of where something is going or where something could go. But I got to say, watching this episode, and we just did that like about an hour ago, has left me off balance. This is a farce, and it's hard for me to transition from serious fantasy to farcical. I mean, at the beginning of this episode, the girls scream like little girls. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't mean that in a rude way, but they do. There's a scene. What are they called?
The Gales.
The Gales come upon them, and they're like,
the one with the cage on his head. Yeah.
And they run away. That's farcical, right?
Yeah.
That's a totally different kind of entertainment, and I'm not sure I'm prepared right now to just launch off where I would go farcically with this kind of a story.
Okay. I mean, geez. I guess there's a lot of, you could go anywhere you want, really, if it's a farce. So
a musical. Okay, I'm gonna guess that it is going to go to a full-blown musical.
But it would have to be rock and roll, like they've been playing.
It would be a totally modern rock and
Yeah.
roll. It'd be like the last episode of the season. They're going to break out in song and dance,
Could
and
be.
we're going to get everyone running around there, drink some more of that truth.
The truth plums.
The truth
Plum
plum
night.
juice, right? And it'll be really a good time, and they'll end the series on that.
It could. Honestly, at this point, it could. It really could.
So there's my prediction.
For me, I'm going to say, okay, so since we're on a trend of vilifying the good guys and turning the bad guys good, I'm going to say that if they don't do this, they're not following their own pattern, which is the withered crone, who's supposed to be the top evil in this. I believe that's what they've implied, is that it's either the withered crone or the worm. They have to be good too.
No, you're just misunderstanding the
We're
message.
misunderstanding them. They really do want to save the world. Remember how in that tapestry, when Kit was looking at the tapestry and we were hearing flashbacks of how Bavmorda was turned. It's like, do you want to commit yourself to me, and we'll bathe this world in light and, rebirth, and it'll be great and wonderful. And she's like, yes, I want to do that. So that's really what's going on, is we're just not understanding that really is, it is goodness. She does want to bathe the world in light and goodness. So that's where my prediction is.
And the Gales, they may look disgusting, right? But really, they have hearts of gold. And once we get to know them, and in that final dancing at the end of this season, we'll see that not only are they have hearts of gold, but they're really great dancers.
Especially that shapeshifter one, because she can bend. Did you
Yeah.
see that? I liked how she bent. Oh man, what a...
So I guess I am kind of looking forward to reaching the end of this season and watching that dance party.
And they would be a pretty bizarre... I mean, that'd be a better party than the one we were just at. The whole, we're all friends now in the forest and hippies. Oh my goodness, yeah. Oh yeah, and the stupid bone reavers can't defend themselves when the trolls show up. I forgot to mention that. You were the one who, I think, first brought it up, like, what now? Oh no, we're being attacked, run away,
No, run away.
So scary.
It kind of makes me wonder why anyone was afraid of them. If all you had to do is drop a troll into their camp and they all run away screaming, then
Oh my gosh.
how much of a threat were they really?
So ridiculous. Do you want to do rating now? How would you rate this episode?
I'm gonna rate it a 4. All right, a 3.
All
I'm gonna
right.
rate it a 3. That is my lowest rating so
I'm
far.
giving it between a 1 and a 2. I would definitely not be watching this show if we weren't doing this review. As a matter of fact, this whole episode was difficult to sit through. So many times wanting to get up and walk away.
So yeah, I'll give it a star for the scene with
Rule.
yeah, and I'll give a star for Lori. I kind of like
Oh yeah,
Lori.
Lori. What was his name? His other name was like Troth or Toth.
Just go with
Yeah,
Lori.
Lori.
I
was
give
fun.
one for that. He was fun.
He's
And
probably
then-
going to die and not be in the show anymore.
Then I'll give it a star for the one troll coming in and disrupting the whole camp. And
Yeah,
yeah.
I was pretty happy about that. I was ready for that party to be over. So, all right. I guess that's all we've got for episode 5. I mean, if we don't see you for episode 6, we get it. I mean, we're barely going to march ourselves through that one, too.
We're going to
so.
force ourselves through it. We hope you will come along with us.
Yeah.
Because misery loves company,
This
and
is
we'd like
true.
you to be just as miserable as we are. So, please tune. No.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, I think so. No, we
don't
do.
want you to be miserable.
I don't want you miserable, but I would like to share my misery in the hopes that it makes me feel less miserable. But with that being said, we hope that you'll like, subscribe, and comment below to tell us about your least favorite part of this episode. Anything that we forgot?
Or your favorite part.
Yeah, sure. I can't imagine anyone having a favorite part other than Rule.
It's like you were going through a Woodstock. It's a modern day Woodstock. Tell me
Yeah.
what you think about your modern day Woodstock. Did you dig it? Right? Yeah, that's old people talk. So
I
did you dig
get
or
it,
did
and
you
I
hate it?
don't dig it. It's
Okay. Till next time.
catch you later.